The inability of the colonists to get the power to issue their own money permanently out of the hands of George III and the international bankers was the prime reason for the Revolutionary War. Benjamin Franklin. In 1764, the British Parliament enacted the Currency Act, one of 4 acts imposed on her American colonies. In the 10 years prior to the War for Independence, Britain went more and more into debt due to the 7 Years' War. King George III believed that raising taxes on the colonies was the answer, and Parliament ultimately agreed with him. Over the course of 2 years, Britain enacted the Sugar Act, the Currency Act, the Quartering Act, and the Stamp Act. All 4 angered colonists, but the Currency Act would ultimately bring depression to the American economy itself and help spark an American uprising. Ever since humans started trading, bartering, and using items of monetary value, mankind has been directly affected by matters involving exchange. Money has always had a direct impact on people, and when an economy struggles, it creates a certain kind of resilient culture, or breaks it. It's important to understand why the colonists living in the New World were so ruthlessly insistent on freedom, and where that desire for liberty came from. The colonial society and economy were highly suppressed by the restrictions the British government imposed on its people in the Americas. It created a limited economy, which is exactly what the English leaders wanted. Every day, people had to decide what the best way was to get the goods they needed, whether through unusual or illegal means. This put a strain on the colonies, slowly building until 1775. When colonists arrived in the New World, most had come to seek a life free of oppression or to find a life of adventure. Because the journey was costly, most arrived in New England poor, with not much money to offer the colonial economy. During the 1600s, British leaders purposely restricted British coin from reaching the colonies, as well as outlawing the printing of money, in hopes that it might spur on a bartering economy. The British highly valued goods from the New World, and the colonies desired the then modern commodities offered by Europe. This arrangement was good for English merchants, but became increasingly unpopular in the colonies. The lack of physical coinage in the Americas created a difficult lifestyle for most merchants and common folk alike, so much so that the colonial representatives appealed to King George often. Despite the colonists' increasing demand for coinage, the Crown insisted otherwise. In response, alternate forms of money began to appear throughout America. The wampum appeared in 1627 and was created by the Dutch in New York. The colonists would use it for trading with Native Americans, and by 1637, Massachusetts made it a legal form of coin. However, because this form of tender was made of shells, they would quickly lose their value, and by 1661, it was no longer a legal form of money. Foreign coins were a very popular way to be able to pay for things during the 16th and 17th centuries. The Spanish dollar was so popular that eventually the newly created United States would name its own currency after it. Using foreign coin came with its own problems, however. The value of the coins would often be varied from colony to colony, creating an unreliable and unsustainable way to do business. As the British government began to enforce the 4 new acts of 1764 and 1765, colonists in the New World felt misrepresented, and the fuse was lit. During the year following the Currency Act, the colonies fell into a depression, costing jobs and income for a country that was just on the edge of fruition. In 1 year, the conditions were so reversed that the era of prosperity ended and a depression set in. To such an extent on the streets of the colonies were filled with the unemployed. Benjamin Franklin. One by one, each of the acts felt like a personal blow to every person living within the colonies. The mistreatment of the people by a ruler across an ocean brought the society together, causing a revolution that would spark others around the world. By the time 1775 came around, tensions were boiling between the 2 sides of the Atlantic, and war between them exploded. After the war was won, the new Americans adopted a new constitution, complete with a clause that gave Congress the power, quote, to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin. The Coinage Act established the standard U.S. dollar, setting its value at a ratio of 15 grains of silver and 1 grain of gold. Citizens of the United States now had at last a steady, uniform, and mostly predictable form of currency. Citizens of the new United States could purchase goods as a united people, tied together by a cause they all fought, a constitution they could believe in, and a new American dollar.